Welcome, beautiful Coven of the Witch Weaver, to the Dance of the Elements. So from today forth, we shall be exploring the 4 sacred elements, which are earth, air, fire, water. Then spirit will follow, and we will involve spirit at any point when we feel the flow and the call for spirit to be involved. So, due to popular demand, as you all voted, we are going to begin with the element of earth. However, before we launch into that element of earth, I wanted to talk a little bit about the elements full stop. Within many books pertaining to the subject of witchcraft, you will hear the term elements, cardinal elements, the elemental guardians, or the guardians of the watchtower, or the elemental directions, or the sacred directions, and so on and so forth. And all of these have something very similar in common. So first and foremost, there are 4 sacred elements. These are earth, air, fire, water. There are 4 directions: north, south, east, west, and there are 4 seasons: summer, autumn, winter, spring. As you can see, because there is this solidity with the number 4 in terms of the elements have been assigned to the directions and also the seasons. However, here is where the magic lies. Each to their own in this regard. And what I mean by that is that we are all located in different geographical locations, obviously. And what may be earth to me may not be earth to you. Take, for instance, my place here in Tasmania. I'm a little island in southern Australia. We are not attached to the mainland. Beneath me or below me in the southern aspect is nothing but ocean and Antarctica, which is solidified water. So what do you believe that my southern direction would be as far as the element goes? Well, to me it would be water, because that is exactly what lies in the southern aspect for me, in my geographical location. Now, I'm an island, and when I look north, there is the mainland Australia. So what do you believe that the northern aspect would be associated to? What element? Well, to me, that would be earth. And so fire would be to the west and air would be to the east, because the west is where you get this arid red desert that reaches these extraordinarily high temperatures of 45 to 50, sometimes even 60 degrees Celsius. They call it the red center for a reason. And then you get the ocean, which is on the east coast of Australia, and you get these beautiful, cool breezes come through, lots of bird life, and that to me holds the association for air. So air is east, west is fire, south is water, and north is earth. But that is my geographical location, and they are my explanations for why I have associated the elemental bodies to these particular directions. Now, depending on where you are, you will then need to determine for yourself where you're going to place these elemental attributes in accordance with the cardinal directions, for instance. And so why is this important? Well, if you decide that you want to include these elements into your personal practice, and you want to do such things as cast a circle, for instance. You needn't cast a circle as a witch. That's a very Wiccan thing to do. Creating sacred space is a witch's business, but casting a circle specifically, that is something that is quite Wiccan in its influence and also quite high magic in its influence. Circles are considered protection, and they are also considered the space that is created for the purpose of magic. So it's considered a temple space. So there are many witches that utilize the sacred circle as an important element in their practice. I am one such witch. I'm not Wiccan, but I'm one such witch. And that is because my tradition moves in sacred space in circles. we spin in circles and so on and so forth. And so the circle has a particular meaning to me. I also love to work with the moon. It's spherical in shape. And so the circle to me has for a long time captured the element of sacred space and temple space. When I cast a circle, I do so meaningfully. And when I do this, it's to create that purposeful sacred space out in nature. When I am sitting here on my altar and I call the elements to me and I attribute them to the directions, it adds this intensity in the invocation aspect. So take, for instance, I'm going to give you one example, and I can't give you this full example because it would be contravening my oath. But one of the quarter calls for my older covens related to the directions and the animals that were prevalent within that direction. So take, for instance, with the blessings of the Ulysses butterfly, I call upon the powers of East, and so on and so forth. I had to really censor myself then so as to not give too much away. But East, air, butterfly, wings, air, and I would call it all into being. And what happens when you create these types of quarter calls is what they are known as. It elevates the level of ritual within sacred space. So once you have called the quarters or addressed the elemental attributes, the elements as a whole, the directional attributes, the watchtowers, whatever, however you would like to refer to them as being, you then solidify this spiritual sanctuary, this sacred space and this presence. And so it is up to you whether or not you want to cast circles. It's up to you whether or not you want to quarter call. This is all up to you, but these are things that I do myself. And we will go through some of these aspects to see if it's something that you might like. You never know until you try it. That's my personal philosophy. And some things with some things, not all things. Let me preface that, right? And so, as we journey into this beautiful theme of the dance of the elements, I had hoped that we would get through one single element per month. But I don't know if that's even possible because Earth is quite big. And I like to play in the kingdom of Earth. There are rituals to do. There are spells to do. There are practices to do. And so I vote, and you can vote as well, but I vote that we stick with an element for as long as we feel it is necessary. And while we are still excited about it, while we are still getting material and content and beautiful practices and immersing ourselves in the element and absorbing that wisdom and growing our practice and feeling comfortable doing so, when we run out of that, I say we shift. But it is up to you, and you can vote. And so as we work with the elements, we can start to adopt an elemental view of the world. You can naturally visit places and landscapes and feel the presence of air or earth or water, and you really can. Here in Tasmania, there is a place called the Bay of Fires. Now, you would think bay, water, but then the Bay of Fires, there is something quite elementally exalted about the fire element and its association with that geographical location. So yes, a geographical location may be dictated by a specific presence of the element, and while that element will hold sway over that area, it may not be the only element that is ruling there, and therein lies the mystique of our world. We can go to places where there is water, where there is personified, rich, earthy energy like gargantuan trees, buttress roots, and everything mossy and green with stones, and you have a body of water, and everything is just exalted, and it be really, 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 really windy. Well, there are 3 elemental presences there. And it is important to understand that when we go out in nature and we perform our rituals in nature, that we are always immersed in the elements, with the exception of course, fire. Now, yes, there will be places that have personified fire energy, as I've previously mentioned with the Bay of Fires here in Tasmania. You will also waltz up the side of a volcano and you'll feel the heat, you know. But for the most part, fire needs to be called into being. Fire is that magician's element. The flame is considered the flame of creation. There is nothing more hypnotic or alluring than gazing into a flame. Fire has an element of danger. It has a seductive quality to it. And so if we spend too much time with fire, we end up becoming affected by it. And it's not always in the best way. But I will get into that a little bit when we venture into the element of fire. But right now, we are here with earth. We are journeying with earth. We are immersing ourselves in the element of earth. And so there are many, many, many things that we can do to connect ourselves to the earth. The first is perhaps the most common sense and also the most basic. Take off your shoes and walk barefoot on a patch of dirt or grass, or place them on a rock somewhere. But connect your feet to the earth. Connect your hands to the earth. Hug a tree if you need to. There is something quite beautiful and quite grounding about placing your bare feet on a patch of earth. It really does help to align the meridians and helps to sedate some of the anxiousness of the everyday. It's quite beautiful. It's a quite lovely practice. There is a whole culture that revolves around barefooting. It's a good one, but it's not always practical, particularly in areas where walking barefoot is pretty unsanitary and also a little dangerous. So unfortunately, as our Earth Mother becomes more and more polluted, these are things to concern oneself with. And that's another aspect of Earth, is the ecological aspect. What we as witches and guardians of the natural world can do to assist the Earth Mother in whichever way we feel it is necessary to assist her. Recently, over the weekend, it was Clean Up Australia Day. It was also the same day as a giant heat wave. And as we ventured into the beach to take our little kiddlywinks to the beach to cool off for the day, there were so many people picking up rubbish. So many, and it was so good to see. I myself just randomly picked up rubbish on the day just to feel like I was a part of it. The day before that, I went to a zero waste book launch, which was another way in which I am interested personally in minimizing my waste so that my waste doesn't become a burden on the earth. And so we can each take our own approach to being ecologically conscious. And at the very core of that ecological consciousness exists the necessity to become aware. When we are aware, when we know what is going on, and we have a deeper awareness of what exactly is going on, then we can connect that awareness to our feelings and allow our feeling to dictate our behavior. And in many cases, this is how we often operate from an intuitive perspective. And so there we have it. We are now journeying with the element of earth. And I really do look forward to sharing sacred space with you in the kingdom of earth, or the queendom of earth. But I hope that you will take the opportunity to really look at the elements, their cardinal directions, their associated seasons, and place them in a configuration that makes sense to you and your personal geographical location. Therein is your first snippet of homework. Okay? And so my next video will speak more on Earth.